Hi guys, welcome back to day 17 of our holiday card series this year. So in a previous video we did a cute little sky background, and then we did some Christmas snowflakes stamped on top of it. And I said if you guys were interested I would do sort of like a background and maybe stamping some trees or something, because I did a similar card but all in watercolor. So we did the trees in watercolor, we did the background in watercolor. So I was thinking of doing the same thing, doing the background, but in different colors, of course. And then instead of doing our trees, maybe stamping some trees for just to show some people who are a little intimidated to do it all in watercolor that you can still incorporate your stamps. So I have these cute little stamp sets here. And I think we might use maybe a couple of these trees and maybe even the deer or something. We might throw a deer in there, who knows, but we'll work on our background first. And what I'm going to do, so I usually have all my cards pre-sketched, but I'm just going to sketch some little snowbanks in here. So it's going to start maybe here and go up here, and then maybe we'll have one starting up here a little bit and kind of going down like that. So that'll be kind of our snowbanks. So we'll have our little deer and our trees down there, but we'll work on our sky for right now, so the background. So I'm just going to take my size 12, this is a Princeton Elite brush, and I'm just going to put in our just clear water. And what colors do we want to use today? You know, I'm thinking maybe, because we've done like some purples, we've done a green sky, we've done a blue sky. I'm thinking of like a nice warm sunset, maybe. So I haven't done this one yet, so maybe we'll mix up some colors for a warm sunset. So maybe we'll take, this is our cadmium orange hue. And so we'll just get this color ready to go. Now we don't want too much water to color ratio because we'll already have water down on our paper, but we want enough that we can, you know, get it on the paper quickly enough. And then if we need to go back in for more color, that's absolutely fine. We can do that. So maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll do some red. So we'll go in with our cadmium red deep hue here. So we'll get some of that and we can just throw that in as sort of like a transition color. And then maybe we'll do, I'm just getting some water over here. It's dirty water, but that's fine. So maybe we'll do our indigo at the very top for our darkest. And then maybe we'll go in with our phthalo blue. There. And yeah. So those are going to be about the colors that we're going to use. So I'm just going to start with some nice clear water, and I apologize about my cat in the background. He wants some attention, and he'll have to wait until after this video. He can be very vocal when he wants attention. Okay, so I'm just getting it nice and wet. I don't want puddles, but I do want it to be nice and wet. Okay, and so I'm just going to start at the top here with this indigo color. And I'm just going to start mapping in our colors, and then we can go in and deepen them up. And then we'll take our phthalo blue. And I'm going to start sort of making like a halo color, just because maybe our sunset's just coming up. So I'm gonna kind of do it in like a halo. Okay, and get a little bit more blue in there, because I really want that orange color to pop. And then we're just gonna go in with our red, just as like a little transition between the blue and the orange. Now you could go right in with your orange, but you got to remember that the blue and the orange aren't going to mix so nicely. Okay, and then we're going to grab our cadmium orange, and I'm going to just start down at the bottom. And then just work this in. And I'm going to work it up into our red to get these two colors to really mix, but I'm going to be careful not to mix too much into the blue, or we're going to start getting like a muddy color. Okay. And then I'm just going to clean this off, get some more bright color, some more of our cadmium orange, and just really lay that in here. Okay, and then I'm just going to get the water off, and just here maybe where sunset would be, I'm going to just make sure it's a little bit paler there. Where the sun's starting to come up. Okay, and I might just go back in and just make it a little bit darker at the top. So I'm just going between the indigo and the black. Don't want it too much darker because this is going to be a nice little sunset, but just enough. And then I'm going to get that phthalo blue just to get that really nice pop of blue back in there. Come down. And then I'm just going to go in with our red. I'm just going to mix my cadmium red hue and cadmium deep. And then just kind of work this in between. All right. Okay. So I think that's starting to be where I want it to be. So we'll let this dry, and then we'll go back in with our next step. Okay, so now that our sky's dry, we can go in and do our foreground. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get that cadmium orange hue. Since this is a sunrise coming up, our snow wouldn't be, shadowed or would have blue on it. I'm going to put that cadmium orange hue color on it. So I'm just going to get a pretty watered down version of this. And we're just going to go on top of our snow here. And I'm just going to do both. And I'm just fixing where I went over it as well. Okay, then we're gonna get all the color out of this brush. And I'm gonna tap off some of that water, and then we're just gonna lead that down. So it's gonna go from the yellow, the orange, down into some clean water. Just so there's a nice transition. And just a hint of color. Okay. Just dropping in just a touch more. Just because I want it to be a nice goldeny color. Okay, and I'm making sure that I don't let this water from this hill go all the way into this one, or it's going to run up. Okay. Okay, so I like that, so we'll have to let our hills dry first, and then we can go on top with our stamps. And we might make it a snowy day. We'll see. I might do some snow in the background. Okay, so now that our background's dry, I've just picked out a couple of stamps that we can go on top with. So I've picked out this tree, this little set of trees, and this little cute reindeer. So what I'm going to do, I just have some black ink here. This is Colorbox Pigment Archival Black ink. I'm pretty sure I just got this at Michael's last year. So I'm just going to start with maybe these trees here, and I'm just going to put them onto this acrylic block just so that it'll stay better when I'm doing my stamping. And I'm just going to get them nice and stamped. So you want to do this, you know, a little bit. You don't want to press too hard so that you're getting the black ink around the edges, but you want to make sure that you're getting all of the parts of the trees uniform. And it never fails, I always get some ink on my fingers. So we're just going to do this for a second. Now, I find doing this, like making sure you've got a good amount of ink on there before you go into stamp, is good if you don't have like one of those misty stamping tools. If you do, then you can go and do that double ink stamp. So that's looking pretty good. So I'm just going to line this up here right on top of our little mountain hill, and I'm just going to press. I don't want to wiggle it too much. I just want to press it down so that it's all even. The pressure's all even. If you wiggle it too much, then you could get ink where you don't want it. Okay, and then after a few seconds, we're just going to lift that off. And that's our little trees back there. Now if you wanted, you could go on top again, but I don't have one of those misty stamping tools, so this is what I've got. And then we'll go on with our big tree here. And what you could do too is take some gouache or even some black watercolor paint and fill in some of those trees. So maybe we'll do that too. Okay, we're gonna do our big tree here. And I'm just gonna make sure it's nice and saturated with ink. And I find I just go all over the block. Maybe we'll do this way. And again, getting it on me. And I always have a look to make sure that there's no spots that I'm missing. But with these stamps, there are some parts that don't stamp. It's not a solid black stamp. So you are supposed to have some white space in between. Okay, and then we'll just stamp our big tree down. So it's part of these stamps, so you can see like there's supposed to be white space in between some of them. If that bothers you, just go in and fill it up. If you don't have, you know, the paint or the gouache or whatever, you could use just a pen, you know, a black fine liner or anything like that, just to go in and add some more stuff. Okay, so that's our other tree. And we'll peel this off and we'll do our little reindeer guy. Okay, same thing. I'm just gonna get them real nice and stamped up, and just check, make sure I'm getting them all. There's probably, you know, better, easier ways to do this than the ways that I do them, but this is just how I found works good for me. Okay, so let's stamp our little guy on here, and maybe he can just be somewhere on his way to check out that tree. Okay, so that's all right. And again, getting it all over me. Okay, so I'm just going to put these aside for now, and we'll pull out our gouache. And just so you guys know, for those stamps, I just use this Staz On. It's an all-purpose It's an all-purpose stamp cleaner, and you just spray it right on the stamps, and then it wipes off like very easily. So that's what I do, and you can tell I get it pretty messy. All right. So here's my little gouache palette. I'm gonna start with the black because I'm just gonna fill in our deer guy just a little bit. Oop, that was a little bit more than I needed, but that's okay. And I'm gonna go in with my number 2, just pick up a little bit of water. Now, if this is where you guys want to leave this card, that's fine. I'm just going to go in and define him a little bit. Just to get rid of some of those blank spaces. So now I'm going to get off most of that gouache just for his antlers, so I have a nice tip. And his antlers actually turned out pretty okay, but I'm just going to add just a little bit so it doesn't look so different from his body. Okay, so that's our little deer guy, and maybe we'll come in and do that with our tree that's up front. We'll just define a little bit in it. So I'm going to get some of that extra off so I have that nice fine point. And I'm just going to start doing in some little dabs, just to start filling in some. And you know what? Maybe we can use some of these white spaces like there's some snow on top of the tree. Maybe we'll do that. So I'm just going to fill in kind of underneath, and then we'll leave those little white spaces, and we can go in with some white gouache. That might be fun to do. It's all about experimenting and trying new things. And I am all about that. As you can probably tell by now, if you've been watching this card series, then you know I've tried quite a few things. Some worked out, some didn't. It's alright, trial and error. So I'm just kind of tapping in, making those spots that are a little bit, whoop, and look, I almost lost the brush. It happens. Unfortunately, more than you would think. So I'm just trying to make some of these areas just a little bit darker. Okay. So just little tappy motions. And just keep going anywhere that you think needs it. I'm gonna make it just a little bit darker down here. Okay. And now for these trees in the background, I'm just gonna darken up just the middle of it a little bit. Just barely touching, because it is in the background, so they're gonna be lighter in color, but I just want to darken up just that middle a hint. And I'm just tapping, just random, trying to leave some of those white spaces. Right along the bottom, and then with this guy too. And then I'm just going to kind of create where there would be a little bit of grass going on back there. Okay. So we'll leave that. Oh, just see a couple spots in my deer. Or I could just fix. Okay. Now I'm just going to let this dry real quick, and then we might go on top with some snow. Okay, so now that our trees are dry, I'm just going to go in with some white gouache, and this is just the Winsor and Newton white gouache. And we're going to kind of do the same thing, but we're going to add some snow onto those trees. So I'm just going to get some clean water here and mix it in with our gouache. Okay, and we'll just start with this, with our bigger tree. And we're just going to do the same thing, just kind of tap it on. Just wherever you think you might see the snow. A little bit more water just to make it flow a little bit better. And I'm still letting some of those spots show through so that you still get some of that orange through the tree. Okay. And then we'll do just a little bit in the background trees. So I'm really trying just to do little tiny dabs here. Just because I don't want to overwhelm it. It's in the background, it's not a focal tree. And just kind of putting it on random. You want to make sure you're kind of going over the middle of the tree a little bit too. You don't want to just leave a dark line, so I just kind of do some random little dots in the middle too. I'm just going to do some just along the bottom here to suggest, you know, there's some snow caught up in that little grassy area. Now I'm going to be careful here around our little antlers. If you get on top of them, doesn't matter. No big deal. Okay, So there's some snowy trees in the background. Now, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do some snow, because I feel like the sky is just a little boring for me. If you want to leave it like this, you go right ahead. I'm gonna take my number 6 and I'm gonna get our gouache fairly wet, so it's nice and runny. We want a runny consistency this time, so that it will flow off of our brush nicely. And I chose a bigger brush so that we can get some bigger droplets. Okay, so we want this nice and runny. And I'm just going to take another brush and I'm just going to tap it. So the further away I am, the bigger the droplets are. The closer you are, the smaller they're going to be. I want some nice big snow, so we're just going to even add a little bit of water, because the more water you have, the bigger droplets you're gonna have. And I'm even just gonna take it and just splatter it right on there, because I do want some really nice big ones. And this is the fun part. Just making a mess. Just some smaller ones up in the sky, and some smaller ones down here. There. There, so we have a nice snowy background, and we did some stamping, we did a little bit of watercoloring, we did a little bit of everything in this one. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video and learned something from it, and can apply it to your cards. And I'm sad to say we have one card left. So I hope you guys subscribe and like this video and check out the next card video. Thanks for watching.